Hi guys! So hopefully you've managed to declutter some of your projects at the moment and you feel like you've got less on your plate. That doesn't mean that you won't have much on your plate, it just means you should have less. The second part of this decluttering springtime challenge is all about your mindset. Spring cleaning and decluttering your mindset, technically you can do it any time of the year, but I feel like this is a particularly powerful time to reset your intentions for the year ahead. And with that, your mindset is where everything stems from. So there's a couple of things we're going to talk about. First of all, it's all about ditching thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve you. So some of you may talk about that as like positive thoughts or negative thoughts. And if those words, positive and negative, suit you, then use those. I find often when I try and think too much about whether it's positive or negative, I get a bit lost in that. So instead I just work for, is it supportive? Does it support me? Do I feel good using that right now? Because it's either supportive or unsupportive. Okay, so there are lots of examples we can go into. I think the easiest one to use is probably money, because everybody has money, and it's something that people struggle with on a, I don't know, daily, monthly, yearly basis, and it's not necessarily a difficult thing for everybody, it's just that it is a consideration. So let's see, so the standard thing that you might hear going through your mind at certain times is, I don't have enough. Okay, so sometimes this might be a supportive belief because it might actually be true to some degree, so maybe don't go out and buy a Lamborghini, but on the other hand, if you have enough to feed yourself, then you do have enough. And it's kind of just about understanding that difference and figuring out what's supportive for you. So the most important thing with this, I think, to bring up is comparisons. So you may have heard of social comparison theory. And this is all about whether you're comparing yourself upwards or downwards. So you've got upwards comparisons and downward comparisons. Upward comparisons are when you are comparing yourself to somebody who is in a perceived better position than you are. So maybe we won't use money, maybe we'll use yoga because that's quite a good one. And I've done it recently and it's definitely something I did. So there's me trying to get into downward dog, which is not all that easy for me because I can't put pressure through my wrists, so I'm doing everything on my forearms, which hurts a lot more, or just hurts me. Anyway, I'm looking over and seeing all of these people doing these beautiful downward dogs, and I'm thinking, oh, they're doing so much better than I am. So I'm doing an upward comparison to them. So I'm currently in the lower position. And it doesn't feel great, okay? It's a little bit like when you're shopping for houses and you happen to think, ooh, let me just look at the top end of my budget. And then everything that you see kind of pushes your budget a bit further and a bit further and a bit further, and then you're like, oh, if I just had an extra X amount, I'd be able to have exactly what I wanted. So that's because what you're doing is an upward comparison. So instead, what we want to be doing is downward comparisons, or peer comparisons, but that's not part of the same theory. So downward comparisons are all about looking at people who are worse off or have less or are perceived as not being in as good a position or not being perhaps as capable with a particular skill. But using the example of yoga or the house example, yoga would be me looking at somebody during another exercise and seeing that I can do that particular exercise much better. So like one of the things I'm really good at is these twisty ones. I don't really know what they're called, but I'm really good at those ones. And saying, okay, that's cool, well, you're really good at that, currently I'm much better at this one, and it breaks down that uncomfortable mindset of better and worse. Any kind of better and worse, I believe, creates some kind of separation between people, and any kind of separation, I think, takes us away from that feeling of togetherness, and everything I do really is about that togetherness in an energetic sense. So when it comes to your mindsets, remember to avoid upwards comparisons because they can have you feeling like you're not good enough, even though that's not true at all. So, the other thing I wanted to remind you around decluttering your mindset is not to make decisions from a dark place. And that's not to say that any of you are in a dark place. It's just the difference between being in a great mood and not a great mood, feeling like that you're really comfortable with yourself and you're being yourself right now, versus really not feeling like yourself and not in a good place. So remember, don't make decisions from dark places. Take time, make yourself feel good, and then make any decisions. I tend not to take myself too seriously, arguably most of the time, but never take myself too seriously when I'm in a darker place or my mindset isn't quite right and I don't feel completely normal. And that's probably a pretty good habit to get into. So, apart from that, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is the third thing, so the first thing is make sure your thoughts and beliefs are as supportive as possible, and I'll give you an exercise at the end to delve into that. Avoid upward comparisons, but downward comparisons aren't too bad, although any form of separation between another can cause an uncomfortable feeling, so just watch out for that. And then finally, the third one, oh, actually, no, technically it's the fourth one. So don't make decisions from a bad place is the third one. But the fourth one is adding yet to the end of negative statements. So I hear a lot of people say things like, oh, I'm not good at X, or I'm not as good at X as so-and-so. And all I do inside my mind or out loud is add yet at the end of the sentence. In fact, a lot of you might have noticed that I do that. And I just say yet. You know, I'm not good at downward dog yet. It takes a huge amount of pressure off it, and it also brings it back to reality. You know, we do get better at the things that we practice. So, you know, that's how we should talk to ourselves. So the final exercise that I wanted to talk to you guys about is the thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve you. If you could write down 10 things that you think on a daily basis about yourself or about your life or about your capabilities that are no longer serving you. And then on either the next page or in a column next to it, write in a completely different colour all the possible supportive beliefs and statements and thoughts that you would like to have. And you don't have to change all 10 of them. It's not a sort of black and white. But change a couple of them, even if it's just changing it from one word to another. It's really, really powerful. This is something that I do almost on an ongoing basis. So when I notice I've developed a new unsupportive thought or belief, I spend time thinking about what could be more supportive, still truthful, still believable, but definitely more supportive. So anyway, I hope that helps. And that's the second part to our springtime challenge. Our third part is going to be all about spring cleaning and decluttering your environment. So I hope you tune in for that one. See ya, bye!